Hey guys, Matt here and welcome to another video. Welcome to the second part of building the ultimate Linux networking server. In today's installation we're going to be covering FTP, so without further ado, let's get to it. Alrighty guys, so FTP is a very good protocol that you guys can use to share files over the internet, but it's also secure as well. So we're going to be looking at installing FTP because particularly for my role, it's because I'm looking at setting up an FTP server because this is going to be a web server eventually. It's going to be transmitting website files to the internet, which will be really exciting. So we have got a little bit of configuring to do there, but FTP is really easy and very basic to set up. It's probably the most easiest of them all to do. So this is probably going to be a very short video. But without further ado, let's get started. So I'm just going to quickly go ahead and switch my screen here. I'm having to get better at this, but we'll get there eventually. I'm not the best. I'm still practicing. Just bear with me on that one. The VPN just went ahead and disconnected, but I'm just going to go ahead and reconnect in. And let's go ahead and connect into our Linux server. So from now on, everything will be done from the terminal. So the only thing you need to do is make sure that your server is actually switched on and running, and the rest of it can be done from a client. If you want to though, you're more than welcome to do it from your actual VM or do it from the actual server that you are configuring and coding. But mostly, a lot of people will go ahead and use the terminal or use PuTTY to log on. So I've logged on to my server here, and as you guys can see straight away, I'm logged on to server 1. So this was easy, pretty easy, and we're done. Well, you'd think that, wouldn't you? So let's go ahead and get our FTP service installed. So the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is, let's go ahead and install FTP. So we're going to do a yum-y and install FTP. And as you can see, that won't take too long. And the other one we're going to go ahead and install is VSFTP. So there's two services that we're going to need to use to do this. VSFTP is actually the service, and then FTP is, I believe, FTP is what runs the FTP as a part of the service of VSFTP, so those two work together. Not exactly sure the whole entire reason you need both, but they work pretty well. So we're just going to do that, VSFTPD. Okay, why is that not wanting to install? All right, let's just do it this way. Good old copy and paste. Okay, now it will install. I just typed it wrong, so there you guys go. All right, so now that's all installed, let's go ahead and configure it. So we're going to go ahead and go into the etc folder because this is where we store all of the configuration files. So I'll go into the etc directory, and I'm going to go ahead and do another cd into the VSFTPD. Now, typically, I did that wrong. You can just do a cd etc/ your VSFTPD, and I tend to do that a lot. But I didn't do it in this case because I am an idiot. So all I'm going to go ahead and do, as you can see straight away, VSFTPD, let's do an ls, and as you can see, we've got our configuration file right here. Now in this case, it is recommended to go ahead and actually create a copy of this. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to do a copy vsftpd.config, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, .conf, but I'm going to do a .backup. And this is just in case we screw something up. But thankfully we shouldn't, because there's only about 3 lines of code that we need to change. But just good measures is always to take a backup. So let's go ahead and do a nano vsftpd.config. And as you can see straight away, this is what it looks like. Now I'm not sure what it looks like to you guys, because right now it looks like it's really small to me, but hopefully you guys can see that okay. But let's get configuring. So a couple of things that we need to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and modify the VSFTP config. Now the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is put a hashtag here to anonymous equals yes, and be aware if this is be aware that if this is enabled, it will just be completely exposed. The reason we're doing this is people can still access this like a normal FTP server without authentication, but they're restricted to what they can access. So you can have that enabled or you can have it disabled. I like to have it enabled, but you're more than welcome to disable it. The next thing I want to go ahead and look for is the ASI connection. So let's see if I can find it. Just bear with me for a second. This should be on. Just trying to remember which line it's on. There's lots to do. Okay, here it is. So I'm going to look for the ASCII, and I'm just going to uncomment those by using the hashtag. And so now that will allow those services to be active. And that's it, almost it. So the last thing I'm going to go ahead and do is uncomment the FTP banner. And as you can see, it says, welcome to my blah FTP service. We're going to just say, welcome to my FTP service. Done. Okay, let's go ahead and do a system control. and I'm going to do a start VSFTPD. Okay. It helps if I put the M there. I always miss that for some weird reason. Okay. As you can see straight away, VSFTP is now running, and let's just check the status. Okay. As you can see, running. The last thing we need to go ahead and do is allow this through the firewall. So all we're going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to copy and paste these commands. Now, as you guys can see here, there was a little small glitch, and the reason for that is because Adobe Reader doesn't actually properly convert these double dash lines. So now that will work. We just got to modify them ever so slightly. So all I'm going to do is run one other command as well, and this will allow the service and allow the port number. Just that way the firewall's aware of each service. So all I'm going to go ahead and do is just double dash both of these, done that. And the last one I'm going to go and do is a firewall dash CMD double dash reload with a space there. Okay, so that's now reloaded our firewall. The other thing you may not be aware of is there's another security feature in CentOS called SE Linux. We will be going ahead and disabling this just because of the fact is it's quite complicated to understand. But I don't think the FTP will need it in this case. But just for good measures, I'm going to go ahead and run a command called set enforce 0. Okay, that's done. That now means we can access it. Well, that means SE Linux has been temporarily disabled. So to test a couple of things, all I'm going to go ahead and do is add another user. So I'm using the command user add. I'm going to add user FTP1, user FTP1, and I'm going to assign it a password of password 1. But I've got to put in user FTP1, and that now allows me to add that password. So let's go ahead and add password 1, password 1, and as you can see straight away, all updated. So let's now go ahead and test this connection. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a VMware ESXi VM. I haven't actually got one prepared, I've just realized, because I kind of blew up my server the other day by mistake. One of the drives failed in the RAID, so I'm not sure if I've got a Windows 10 client up and running at the moment. I think I've got to go ahead and install this. So what I might go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and I'm going to come right back once I finish the install of Windows 10. Actually, I think I may have installed it, but I don't know. But I'm going to quickly get this installed, and I'll be right back. Alrighty guys, so I'm back. So I have a Windows 10 client I just had it installed a couple of minutes ago. And as you can see, I'm just putting a bit of software on here because this is a testing VM, which we use a lot. Well, I particularly use a lot for testing. So at the moment, it is a little slow with the internet connection, but I didn't realize I actually had Filezilla connected to my Mac. So what I went ahead and did is a couple of things. So let me show you what I did. So the first things first is I went ahead and went to my networking adapters, and I specified the DNS server as our server that I set up. And that's why we use bind, because I can then point it to that particular server. So then what I did after that is I launched Filezilla here, and I then did a initial test to make sure I could connect to it and use the IP address. Then once I knew that was working, I just did the following IP. I did the host name, which in this case was server1, homelab.poolsolutions.com.au. I put in my username of user FTP1, and I used the password 1. Boom, straight away I'm in. And as you guys can see, I'm straight into my directory of user FTP1, and I can even do a bit of testing. I can create a new user, test folder 1, and we're actually going to create some test files here, and I'll explain why a little later. For some weird reason, it's having a couple of issues doing some directory listing. I don't actually know why. It's having a couple of issues today. Sometimes FTP can be a bit of a pain in the neck. I might just disconnect and reconnect in here for a second. I'm going to abort the current tab. What I may need to do is there has been a couple of glitches in the past recently with Filezilla and a Mac client. But I'm just going to triple check though that it's all configured correctly. So it's 2.48, user FTP1, and then the password was that. I'm going to just click allow insecure plane for the server. And as you can see, it's having a couple of issues, but it is working in the sense. So I also had to go ahead and make another change, and I had to go ahead and disable it. Well, I had to stop the firewall, because if I go ahead and re-enable it, there's a small little glitch. I don't actually know why with the firewall server. So if I go ahead and start that now and I try and quick connect into it again, you'll see straight away it's been refused. So this may have something to do with how we've set it up, but I think what we need to do is let's go ahead and have a look at our configuration again, because this should be able to be launching correctly. So all I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm still in the VSFTP file. Let's have a look at our nano configuration. So we went ahead and we allowed an anonymous enable yes. So what that means is if I get rid of this here, if I get rid of these details and I just click connect, straight away it still refuses. I'm going to cancel that operation. So we've allowed that, but it may be due to a security setting with the firewall. And even though we've allowed it through, there may be a couple of issues. So let's just confirm that our FTP banner was set, our cron, everything else was set. We didn't have to touch anything else. So we do know our configuration file is set up correctly. So if I go ahead and stop the firewall again, double T, that works, doesn't it? If I click the stop button here, you'll see now I've stopped it. And if I go ahead and retry and connect, straight away, it should let me in. So this is what it looks like when you look at it from a host side. But I suspect there's probably a glitch with it because of the fact is I'm connected in via a VPN. It's probably not the best method. So I'm going to just wait probably for this for the client to quickly go ahead and install Filezilla. It will take a couple of minutes. So all I'm going to do is go ahead, pause the video, and I'm going to come right back. Okay, so Filezilla is currently installing, but there was a little bit of research I did quickly and just had a look through the worksheet that I've been using to do this. It turns out that some of the settings have been sort of set up correctly, some of them haven't. We did have to go ahead and do a set and force 0, which was disabling SE Linux, which means we will need to go ahead and I will show you guys how to set up the regarding how to set up SE Linux to be disabled, because we are going to be using a lot of services that SE Linux will sort of lock and enforce. So I'm just going to wait for that to boot up, but I'll show you a couple of things. I did go have a look here, just do a couple of other checks. I suspect probably the main issue is because I'm connected via a VPN session, so there are some limitations with it that I wasn't able to connect to it. But now that I disabled the VPN, so I've enabled the firewall, it refuses the connection, I believe. Oh no, I've stopped it. So I've stopped the firewall, and if you look here straight away, it tries to switch to binary mode. So I suspect it's just probably an issue with my actual VPN service itself, because it's having issues connecting. So I suspect it's probably a case of me just trying to launch through this VPN connection. So there are some limitations with a lab like this, but for security perspectives and a security benefit, it's perfect because clearly half the stuff I'm trying to access is getting blocked, which is great. So Filezilla is installing, but while we do that, I'm just going to see if I can go ahead and ping the server at 192.168.2.48. And if I can ping it with a 1 millisecond response time, geez, that's fast. That will make life a little bit easier. Okay, it's just stopped for some weird reason. Interesting. So let's go back to what we originally wanted to do. I've turned off SE Linux, I've disabled it temporarily, and I'm going to go ahead and start the firewall again. Now, hopefully I should still be able to ping it. I just don't know why it's being a bit silly, but as you can see, I can still ping it. Beautiful, fantastic. And Filezilla has just installed. So let's go ahead and open up Filezilla. Now, unfortunately, I forgot to install VMware Tools on this VM, so it's a little small, but I can still adjust the screen resolution. And as you can see as well, the time was synced, which was good. I did have some time syncing issues one time, so I'm glad it works. All right, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do is now that Filezilla's launched, we're gonna go do the exact same test. The other thing I forgot to mention as well is I went into my network settings here and I changed the adapter options, and I went into the Ethernet adapter, clicked properties, and I changed the DNS settings to my server. So that's how it was able to ping. So in theory, what should be able to happen is if I just type server1.homelab.mapulsolutions, helps if I spell right, solutions.com.au, type in my user account of user FTP1, then I type in my password 1, and we can just leave that for now. As you can see, click OK, boom, I'm in. So it was just a VPN, or it was my client being a pain, because as you can see straight away, the firewall has been enabled, and I did disable SE Linux, and as you can see straight away, I'm in. So it was clearly an issue with my machine, my Mac, having issues, and no, Macs are not bad. It's purely because it's how I've routed the traffic. I suspect my actual routing servers firewall is blocking that service, most likely. So as you can see here, I can access it via that one. Let's try and log on as another user, just because I created another one. I'm going to establish it in the same current tab. Straight away, I'm in. So there you guys go. That is how you guys go ahead and set up an FTP server. Couple of little tiny glitches there, but I hope you managed to figure out what happened. It's purely probably, again, my client being a pain in the neck because Windows was able to connect straight into it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. And of course, any issues, any queries, please feel free to put your suggestions or comments or feedback in the comment section below. Give the video a like button, and if you haven't considered subscribing, subscribe. But as always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.